One of the foods that people miss most often on the keto diet is bread. And that's because before a low carb diet, you were just used to going to the store, picking up a loaf of bread or a sack of rolls, and now it's harder to do that. Although there are companies that are coming out with commercially ready-made keto breads, the jury's still out on whether those are actually good for us because they do contain gluten and wheat protein. So I like to do a more whole foods approach to keto. Occasionally I do have some processed keto foods, but the majority of my foods I like to make on my own. So today I'm going to show you an easy keto recipe that you can make for bread rolls. Let's get started. If you have a good keto bread roll recipe, you can pretty much do anything. So you could have it just as a side dish, accompanying like your steak or meatloaf or a soup. You can turn it into sandwiches. You can now have sandwiches. You can make French dip sandwiches with a good keto roll. There's so many recipes that you can make if you know how to make a good keto roll. And I'm gonna show you how to make an easy one that's also delicious and fluffy on the inside. Before I get started, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so that you guys get notified every time I upload a new video. I usually upload my videos on Wednesday. I like to do a mixture of recipe videos along with some keto diet tricks. This recipe for keto rolls only has around 5 main ingredients in it. There's some other things in there for leavening and some salts. I'm not really counting those, but it's very, very easy to make, and you probably already have these ingredients in your pantry and your fridge. You want to start by adding 3 cups of shredded mozzarella cheese and 4 ounces of cream cheese to a bowl. We're going to microwave this at around 60-second intervals until it's melted. The cheese is there to provide structure and support in your bread recipe. You'll see it in a lot of fathead doughs or like pastry doughs that have mozzarella cheese in it. It's really there just to replace the gluten, so it provides that stretch and that structure and support. Now comes the really easy part. I'm gonna add all of the rest of my ingredients to a food processor, and we're gonna mix this together using the food processor. If you don't have a food processor, you can use a blender, like a high-powered blender. You could use a hand mixer, or you can just scoop them together with your hands or just a large spoon. It's gonna take you longer. The food processor, trust me, is so easy. You should really invest in one. And I'll have linked down below my favorite food processor. In the food processor, we're gonna add our melted cheese, 2 eggs, 2 1/4 cups of almond flour, 1/4 cup of coconut flour. And I always like to use a combination of coconut flour and almond flour in my recipes just because I feel like the combo is the closest thing to all-purpose flour. You'll also need 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then to give it that flavor that closely matches bread, we're gonna be adding a special ingredient. And you have 2 options here. You can either add 1/4 cup of buttermilk, or you can add 1/4 cup of yogurt. Now I know a lot of people say, well, buttermilk's not keto, it's higher in carbohydrates, but hear me out. So 1 cup of buttermilk has 14 grams of carbs. We're only using 1/4 cup of buttermilk in this recipe, so that means around like 5.5 carbs for the entire thing. So you're probably not gonna eat all 6, 12 rolls, however many you make, in one sitting. So it's not, I mean, that sits over the entire recipe. So it's not really increasing the carb factor there. But if you really don't want to use buttermilk, you can use a keto approved yogurt. So a Greek yogurt, just make sure it's lower in carbs, or my favorite, which is from Peak yogurt. This is made from pasture raised cows. It's 17% milk fat in it. It's creamy, delicious. And let's see, for for this entire container, it is 12 carbs. So we're only going to be using like 1/4 cup of this. So it really is minimal in how much carbs you're getting from using a yogurt. Then we're gonna pulse everything together until our dough is combined and you see that dough ball rolling around in your food processor. Now our bread dough is ready. We can portion this out into little individual size balls. The size that you choose for your bread rolls really depends on what you're making. So if you're going for a hamburger bread roll, then you'd probably want to make it larger. If you're just wanting a dinner roll, then it would be smaller. But I recommend having your fingertips wet, like moistened with some water, or moisten them with a little bit of olive oil. It just makes it easier to handle the dough so it's not sticking to your fingers. And then we're gonna bake them in the oven at 400 degrees for 13 minutes. Now our keto bread rolls are done. You can take them from the oven. They're nice and hot and fresh this way. Just spread a little bit of butter on it and it's delicious. Now you can see it's really not that hard to make keto bread. It's something that you can make up for dinner just right away as your meat is cooking, or just meal prep it on Sundays. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so that you get notified every time I upload new videos. Have a good one. Bye.